Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown. Hi, Keri. Thank you so much for coming on the Soul Thrive podcast. We're so excited to have you here. I'm even more excited to discuss your current book, What is a Soul, which is beautiful. I love the illustrations in this book too, and everything that you've written in here is exactly what my own inner child would have wanted growing up, for sure. But just for our audience, please introduce yourself and let's get started talking about this soon.
All right. Well, I'm Keri Nelson. I live in North Carolina and I have two children and a husband, and we've been here about 8 years. And I've always wanted to write children's books. And when the kids are 13 and 15 now, but when they were little, everyone kept saying, Keri, you should really write children's books. But
Mhm.
back then, the technology just wasn't there. I mean, Facebook was just coming about. So I was like, I have all these ideas, but I would never know how to actually put them into play. So I just pushed that down further and said,
Mhm.
I gotta be a mom. I got things to do. So years went by and I wrote a book about crystals, and I haven't published it, but my husband kept saying, why don't you publish that book? I was like, I don't even know how to do that. And that was 5 years ago. And so then about 2 years ago, I was actually in Florida on vacation at my in-laws, and they live in a golf cart community where you just ride a golf cart everywhere.
Mhm.
And you go on these golf cart rides. And so you're just kind of like chill and relax, and you're just like in the moment. And all of a sudden, I got this download. It was like, you need to go write a book about a soul. But what is the
Mhm.
soul for children? And I was like, okay, this is weird. It was so strong. It was like yelling at me. And so we got back to my in-laws' home, and I said to my husband, I'm going to grab my laptop and just leave me alone. I gotta go type. And he's like, what are you up to? And I said, I don't know. Like, I just got this message. And so I just kept typing and typing, and it ended up being a good rough draft. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? Like,
Right.
this is supposed to be out into the world, but how am I going to do this? And then my mom got sick and got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So then it was just like I put everything on hold. And then she passed away last summer.
Sorry to hear
And
that.
thank you. And ever since then, it's like this fire was lit underneath me
Mhm.
with her passing. I know that it was meant to be like a catalyst to get out of my shell and actually like put this out into the world instead of just talking about it.
Right.
So my sister, she was like, why don't you mess around with Canva and, like just do some artistic things and see where it takes you. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And sure enough, I just started playing around with it and I figured it out, and everything's just kind of been snowballing. It's just the
Mhm.
universe is really like giving me little hints, and then I just take them and I like apply them. And then they're like, okay, here's another one for you. And so I've just been following all these little hints from the universe, and
I love
it's
that.
progressed, yeah, to this being actually published. It still feels very surreal. It's been on Amazon for about 2 weeks now.
Mhm.
So it's just been surreal. Like it's just been something you talk about and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm never gonna do it. But
Right.
I did it. So, and it's actually a series. So it's called the Cotton Candy Soul Connection series. And so
Mhm.
this is obviously the first book. The next one is already going to be about grounding and children learning how to use their energy to ground themselves.
Oh,
So like every
amazing.
book, yeah, it's going to be based on like spirituality and energetics. So, and how to like
Okay.
help parents, teach their kids about this in an easy, understandable way instead of like overwhelming kids. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I found that your book was just so cute and I loved it. And like the art in here is just it's beautiful to look at and really like I enjoyed it. I was as I was reading through it too, and I was like, oh my God, yes, I love all of the things that you said. One of the I love the intuition part. I'm just
Mhm.
going to find that. So it says your soul is a driving light force within you. It has a voice called intuition. The inner voice guides you, telling you this feels right or no, this feels wrong. And I love
Yeah.
that because I mean, growing up, I'm an intuitive, I'm a psychic medium. So like tapping into all that stuff, just being able to imagine myself and my inner child being able to connect that to that part and being like, you just need to listen to yourself, which is you're doing that even with just the inspiration of creating a bunch of these books for kids. And I think this is beautiful. I love this.
Yeah, I was just reading it too myself, and I was saying to Christina, I feel like I need to gift this
Yeah.
to some adults as well. And I love the way
Exactly.
it's written. It's like my philosophy is always when I communicate, whether it's in business or in any other setting, talk to me like I'm 5 years old. And
Mhm.
I just love how all of these concepts about what a soul is and just like spirituality 101
Yeah.
is just done so well in very simple terms that children can understand. And I think some adults need it too.
I
So
agree.
I love it, but
Yes,
I'm curious.
sure. I think a lot of this information is new for a lot of adults. So, like
Yeah,
on Amazon, I have in my description, it's good for ages 5 to 95 because I just feel like any age can actually take something from it. And yeah, it's to wake parents that are still asleep and are still parenting from a paradigm that that you have to raise your kids the way you were raised. And
Right.
I never had intuitive gifts as a child. I wasn't aware of them anyway. Wasn't raised around spirituality. I had no idea about any of this when I was a kid. So I just wish that I would have known, but I know we're all on our own path and things happen for a reason and things unfold when they're supposed to. So I'm thankful that I've had these aha moments and actually been awakened to help other parents now with their children because the world needs it right now.
I completely agree with that, but you're embracing that too. And even just your language around, like, I got this download and I was inspired and I registered. My mom may have been the catalyst of that inspiration to go ahead and create something to help children understand the information, which is important, right? Because we're not having these, parents are not having these types of conversations with their kids. They are definitely more in the space, I think, in my opinion, where there's a lot more of like feelings, like listen to your feelings, but
Yeah.
there's not enough around like what your soul and soul purpose and guidance and intuition and grounding and all of that. So I love all of this. I'm really excited about all of this.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
And
the
so,
energy, yeah, just the energy of parenting in general. Like we just need to be aware of how we're showing up to our kids because they're just reflecting back what we're giving them. And
mhm,
so a lot of parents don't understand that. And I just want to get that word out there that you do have the power to change the dialogue with your child if you're struggling. There's something going on deep down inside of them that you can pull out, and your energy can help heal them. Because when you heal yourself as a mom, you heal your children. And so you don't even have to really, you just have to go inside and heal your inner child wounds, and then it'll naturally just feed out and ripple to your children. So it's not as hard as it appears. Like I think a lot of parents think they got to take their kids to therapy, and which may be good for some kids, but a lot of times it's just that connection that they need with their parents and that energetic that that they're connected and that they understand each other. And we're just giving out that vibe, and they're just repeating back what we're giving them. So
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
adjust it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with that. Yep.
yeah. So I'm curious what your definition is. So the first book that's part of the series is called What is a Soul? And how would you define that? Like, how would you
Soul.
define what a soul is? And how do you even talk to
How
your
do you
kids about
first
that?
of all, how do you
Yeah,
quantify that
yeah,
concept, right?
yeah.
It's like, how do
Well,
we
how I quantify
actually,
it to my kids, like when I talk to them, I say, you guys know that you are a soul here on a journey, right? Like you're both a human body and you have a soul, and you are a soul with the human body on a journey. And you're here to learn and grow and have all these experiences. And they're not always going to be, rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. It's going to be tough. There's going to be really hard days and things that you go through. They're going to actually build you up and make you stronger. And so, the soul is your guidance. Like you're always whole on the soul level. Like you're never beneath anyone. You're never not better than anyone. Everyone is equal on the soul level. It's just in our human mind, we get into that 3D world where we're just comparing and the contrast and the judgment. So yeah, the soul, I always just say it's this light in you. It's always like it's on autopilot, and it's just burning constantly. But you get to decide, what do you want to do to turn that light up? And that is all through like compassion and kindness and sharing and love. And think beyond like what you can do today, just the simple things to like make someone else's day better. You don't always have to give money. You can donate your time. It can just be a smile. It can be putting someone's grocery cart away at the store. There's just so many little things that it can do. And so I try to always instill that in them. My daughter, she's kind of flipping it back on me. She's 13. I'll ask her a question. I'll say, what do you think about this? And she'll look at me. She goes, well, what does your intuition tell you, Mom? I was
Right.
like, oh my goodness. She's just keeps feeding me that back. But I'm like, well, I just really want your opinion. She's like, but I want you to think, what are you feeling inside, Mom? I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing a good job here. She's actually, you know, repeating back what I've been teaching her. So, and my son, he's an old soul. Like he's 15 and he just has always been very connected to energy. And he loves having Reiki done on him and he loves crystals. And he's just always been a little different from the beginning. And so he actually was one of my catalysts to get me to write the book after my mom passed. And he knew I was sad. And he came up to me one day and he goes, Mom, you're not happy at your job. So like, why do you keep going? And I said, well,
What a great question.
gotta
Like,
support,
you're not
support you
happy. I
guys,
gotta pay the
you
bills.
know? Yeah, yeah. I'm like, well, you like to play hockey, right? So I said, sometimes you just gotta, do a job in life. And he was just like, he couldn't understand that. And then I got thinking, I'm like, gosh, what kind of example am I setting for him? I'm like settling and I'm not pushing myself beyond my comfort zone to do what I'm meant here to do. And so he's like, I really think you should quit your job. And I said, well, not quite yet, but like it's in the plans. Like I will do that. It's just, not right now. And so he's always just been like this little like angel on my shoulder too, just constantly like, so where are you at in this, Mom? Like,
Right.
what are you doing? But he plays hockey in Boston. So he lives there in an academy there. And he calls me and texts me and he'll be like, so how's your business going? How's your book going? Like he's just very, very intuitive like that and just knows when I need to him to listen because he talks my talk. Like my
Mhm.
husband and my daughter don't really speak my speak. I'm like, I can talk to my son and he's just like all ears. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's been each child has a different relationship. So
I love
I
that.
cherish
Yeah,
both of them.
that's great. Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like he's a very compassionate son, very compassionate
Yeah.
kid,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Attuned to emotions, attuned to asking the appropriate questions, which I think makes I like probably attentive and like probably like detailed oriented and like
Very much.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
exactly him. Yeah, he's always been so different, and we never knew exactly what it was. He was just always more advanced. Like it just would go through his milestones quicker, but then he just would have this look on his face. And I remember my mom always saying, I can see his mind spinning. Like he'd have this specific look, and I had pictures of him with this look when he was little. And I'd just be like, I know something's going on up there. And he's just like so smart for his own good. And then he's got this intuitive gift on top of it. So it's been great to have him be he's my mirror, basically, is what I've always
Mhm.
said. He's my mirror. He's here to teach me, and I'm here to teach him. So yeah.
Yes, love that.
I'm curious if you've ever had conversations with them about the difference between, what it's like to listen to your intuition versus when fear's coming up. Because both
Yeah.
are messages that come from, I guess, within us, but they come from
Right.
very different places. So curious how you've navigated that conversation with them.
Well, intuition, I always tell them, is like it's going to be this constant nudge and whisper like in your ear. Like you're going to get these signs, you're going to look for the signs, and you're going to it's a feeling, and you're going to just feel more peace and calm inside. You're not going to feel all jittery and like nervous and anxious. You're going to just feel like, huh, okay. For example, when my son wanted to go play hockey in an academy, he had two academies that wanted him, and he couldn't decide which
Mm.
one to go to.
Mhm.
And this is when this all helped out because I said, okay, well, what does your intuition tell you? And like, I can tell you from a mom perspective which one I want you to go to. But it doesn't matter because I want you to feel it. Like, I want you to know that that is the right choice for you and your path. And so he sat on it for like, it was like 2 weeks. He was in agony. And every time haven't made a decision yet. And he goes, Mom, you know what? He goes, I just feel like I belong in Boston. And he goes, and then when I got out of the shower today, he goes, I looked and I saw on the tub a box that said Boston on it. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And he's like, yeah, like Dad's like eye contact stuff on the box. It says Boston. And he goes, I take that as a sign. Like, so he knows to look for things. And then
Right.
obviously he went there and I said, just go there and tour it and just go on how you feel. Like you needed to go with your gut. Like, is it lighting you up inside? Like that's how you're gonna know. And
Right.
he came back and he's like, yeah, that's the one. That's where I want to go. So it was a really cool lesson to see him go through that process
Right.
because it was in agony for a while, just going back and forth. I'm like,
Yeah.
Right.
you need to just breathe and just meditate on this. And I would give him meditations to do and just don't care about what anyone else thinks because I'm not living your life for you. At this
Right.
point, I am your guide. Like, I am your mom, of course, but I'm not here to tell you what to do. Like, that's not why you chose me as your mom. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Isn't that so great?
Yeah, well, but it's the truth. It's the
Yeah.
truth. I often tell my clients that too, whenever we're doing like work or I'm working with my clients and they've got kids, I'm always like, stop projecting your opinion or what you think is best for them. Just be a guide, be there to listen, be an active listener, and then above everything else, let them choose for themselves because it's their life. You're just
Mhm.
here to kind of support and be their cheerleader. And like if they make a mistake, you back them up. Like that's
Mhm.
you're just a guide. You're not here to like, they're not to live their dreams that you failed or you failed your
Yeah.
dreams and now they have to like live through that experience, right?
Right.
It's nice that you're someone who is taking that step
Mhm.
back and saying like I've raised you well enough for you to tune into your own internal guidance system. And if it takes 2 weeks for you to figure out what works for you, well then it takes 2 weeks versus
Yep.
like the urgency of making a decision right away
Mhm.
and then
Right.
not listening to or paying attention to those signs, which is,
Right.
I think, a really great parenting skill overall. I think
Mhm.
if more parents execute that too, you're showing that you're not enmeshed with your child as well. There's not that dysregulation when it comes to your own nervous system and their nervous system, because ultimately a mom as a guide is supposed to be, like you said, healing themselves. And when they're good with themselves and they've got that regulation with themselves and you're listening to your intuition, you're paying attention to that guidance, you're paying attention to that, you're regulated. When you're regulated, they feel regulated. And then the other aspect too is like your daughter being like, why are you seeking external validation for my opinion? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
here to give you.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
right, it's like this guidance is happening here, this back and forth. She's like reflecting back to you and say, like, my opinion doesn't matter. It's your choice. It's your life. You're gonna make that
Right.
decision for yourself. And that shows that you're instilling the confidence in her to be like, I don't need to ask everybody else, do you accept me? Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? What's your opinion about the decisions I have to make?
Mhm.
So good for you, because that shows me that you're parenting like exactly how you should be parenting. And
Yeah.
that's gonna help your children really navigate their decisions and their lives in a more emotionally intelligent way, in a way
Exactly.
where they're very regulated.
And they'll have a sense of self.
A
Like the
hundred
only thing
percent.
that's the one thing that's so evident in this conversation is like your son will always know who he is
Yes.
Oh
because you're
yeah.
teaching him to make decisions for himself. And like to your point,
Right.
not to go outside. And what do you think? Because so many times we're like, and what do you think? And what do you think? And what do my friends think? And what do my parents think? And that's exhausting. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
he was it was bad. He was struggling. He was tired. Like you could just tell his brain was just working just overdrive. And I'm just like, honey, you have to just let it be. Like, just don't think about it right now. Just, go outside, go for a run, go work out. Like things happen when you're not trying and you're creating more resistance right now when you're
Yep.
trying so hard
Yep.
and the energy's just like and you're not going to
Mhm.
get any downloads in that manner. So you need to let it open and just like go skating, go running outside, just do anything to get your mind off of it. But
Yeah, it's like you
it's a
can't
lot,
make that decision in a stressed out state.
No,
That's, I think,
yeah.
key, because
but
that's
we,
what we
we grew up
Yeah.
all the time. Like we laugh about that. I'm like, I teach all this stuff all the time. And then sometimes I'm in it and I'm like, oh my God, this is my mother all over again. I'm like, I'm totally having a moment right now where Jenny is influencing the decision in my behavior and the dysregulation. I got to take a break. I got to shut it all down and figure out what I need to do next. Right.
Yeah.
Or like your
Same,
mom's
same,
study
same.
too.
It's like busy, like chaos, and then you try to, like, when you try to make decisions in that state, it's really difficult. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Maybe like to end, what would you give as advice to, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this, but if you were able to give advice to other parents, what are like top 2 or 3 things that you would do to help them raise conscious children?
First is just constantly remind yourself that they are not your possessions, that they actually are here. They chose you to be their parents. And so just take that role with like great responsibility and not try to put your stuff on them because they are not you and they need to know that they can navigate this world without you too, but they always have a soft place to fall and they know that you're always got their back. So I think that's super important. And then the energetic part, like I mentioned before, is huge. I think a lot of people think energetics is woo-woo and it's so I heard an expression, it stands for work on our own, like a spiritual, basically woo woo stands for like work on your own spiritual gifts. And so like basically you want to use, I'm trying to figure out how to say this right here.
Okay.
Use the spiritual tools to help you navigate being a parent. So it's okay for your child to not want to do something that you think they should. Like if the other parent's like, well, my kid's joining soccer and, or we're going to go over here and do this activity. And if your kid doesn't want to, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. You need to respect their emotions and their feelings. So just stopping and listening and acknowledging and being aware of how they're feeling. Because, you see kids at the store having meltdowns and throwing themselves on the floor. I just feel so sad for those kids because I look at them, I'm like, oh, they just don't know how to express themselves. And if the parent could really see that and step back and see their kid on the floor and think, what does my child need from me right now? Instead of get off the floor, you're gonna get a spanking, or I can't believe you're doing this in public. So it's more just awareness. I would say would be the second thing for parents is just to be aware of that energy and your responses to your children, because they're watching and they're absorbing it all. They're going to act that out as adults. So if we can stop that now, those patterns that were passed down from generation to generation, then we're ahead of the game. So
Yeah, love that. And one last question, I do want to know, like, how do you think your inner child feels knowing that it's finally creating its own soul's purpose?
she's so happy. I mean, I've done a lot of inner child work, and I mean, it was a long road of doing of that work, but it was very comforting, and I got to like hold her and rock her. I even have like right here, oh, can't even see it. I have a picture of myself at 7 on my little roller racer on the kitchen floor as a constant reminder. I look at her and I tell her I love her every day. I was raised in a loving household. However, I feel like I was maybe like I was the baby. And so I think there was just a lot going on. I was the baby of 4 kids. So I think sometimes you just, there's no intentions to be ignored and your emotions to be acknowledged. But I worked through a lot of that and just, yeah, the inner child in me is very happy now. I didn't know about the inner child work, and like 2 years ago, I started looking more into it and studying it and going through all the work to do that. And I just feel like I've blossomed so much, and she can be heard now, and her creativity is out there for the world to see.
Love that. Thank you so much, Keri, for coming on the Soul Thrive podcast. We wish you all the
Appreciate it.
success in the world. And we're
I love what
excited
you guys are
to see
doing.
your next book when it comes out too.
Yes, yes, it's in the works. I'm actually gonna have someone else illustrate it next time because the illustrations took a little long for me. So I have it about 80% written right now. But
Oh, I love
Nice.
that.
That's exciting. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.